My guest today is Laura Moran, Vice President of Product Innovation at Bark, which in my opinion is one of the coolest and most innovative pet food and pet care companies in the world. And Laura, we met for the first time when you were at Mars, where you were a technical business leader in the pet food area for over 25 years. But I know you've also spent some time in the human food area as well, most recently at JR Simplot. And I'm just excited to have you here today. So thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
You've worked in these large, mature companies and also in newer companies, right, with this kind of startup mentality. What are the differences that you see between these two different types of companies from an innovation pipeline standpoint?
First of all, there's resources and established processes, right? And most mature companies I've been in, there's typically a PMO office with experienced project managers, very clear roles and responsibilities, and people who know, like, this is my box that I work in, and this is what I do to move a project from beginning to the end. And in contrast, working at a startup, like, you wear many hats. And sometimes the roles and responsibilities aren't as clear, or they're muddled a little bit. And it's just like all hands to the pump to try to move things along from that perspective. And so that's one particular area. The second area is around, I think, alignment around financial goals and targets, right? Where, a mature company, we have clear alignment on the stakeholders regarding financial goals and targets. And that's clearly communicated through a top-down process. And we have, robust financial planning, forecasting processes, and really help to, manage strategically where we're going, and measure ROI, right? So that's where some of the
Mhm.
resources come in, because you can measure that ROI and investment. Whereas working at a startup, we're achieving, we want to get something to market, and we want to get it fast, we want to see if it works, and we're really after that rapid growth to scale and mature. And then, a third area, which is, I keep kind of going back to this integrated process and common goals, which is the processes at mature companies. They've been established, they're structured, they've been continuously improved over time, and are well integrated, and everybody kind of follows along. Whereas in a startup, some of those processes don't exist, or they're
Mhm.
loosely kind of come together. That kind of gives you some, there's some challenges around, alignment and everybody working towards the same goal. But then on the other hand, it offers flexibility, the ability to just drive things forward. And then, a little bit more on startups, it really is about, the speed. That's what it's all about: speed. It's like, how fast can you get this to market? How can you test this hypothesis quickly? And how do you learn from failures? That is the mindset that I've learned about being at Bark. Really that fail first mindset, and kind of moving forward from that. Just do it, get it right. Get it 80% right, get some feedback, and kind of move on.
It's funny thinking about what I've seen at different sizes of companies. There's this, sometimes these smaller startups will look at these mature companies and they'll say, if only we had these kind of processes that, that they may have been familiar with. But I also know there's a little bit of envy the other direction sometimes too, right? It's these big companies, in a funny way, they aspire to be like these smaller companies that can move quickly. Are there best practices that you see for innovation, the innovation pipeline, that are more relevant to a startup type company?
One of the best practices that I see here at Bark, we are very close to our customers. We have a customer team, service team, that's called the Happy Team, that have so many engagements with our customer, and so we really have a good understanding of what our customers like about what they get with their box, what they want different, And we get that data in real time, sometimes, that the day that it comes in, or on a monthly scale. So I say that we really have this engagement to understand our customers' pain points, their needs, and especially preferences in our products. And so we're able to adapt to that and use that information relatively quickly. So I think that's, definitely a best practice from a startup perspective. And then I think two is, this whole entrepreneurial mindset and thinking. Well, Mars, was an entrepreneurial company a long time ago. It's a very big company now,
Hmm.
and so just being, close to the founders who identified, this opportunity with, you know, people wanting to have, having good quality toys and having treats and having a fun experience with the product. I think that, that mindset is here of like, what can we do to make this
Hmm.
happen, instead of what can't we do to do that. I
Yeah.
definitely feel that much more so about taking ownership and pursuing some of these ideas.
I imagine it's in a large company, it's easy to get overwhelmed by kind of perceived barriers, right? Whereas the smaller company, you've just got to stay focused on the things that are going to get you successful.
Right. And it's really much about a learning environment, and iterative, right? So things don't have to be perfect, right? They have to be, good quality and safe. But the name might not quite be right, or the shape might not quite be right on a tree, but we're able to iterate quickly, get some feedback, and then kind of move on from there.
Is there a tipping point that these smaller companies have to get to know that they need to start implementing some more rigor in or more process? And how do you do that effectively?
It's not so much about like how much revenue a company has. I see the tipping point as really pain points in the company. So I see it as like too many missed opportunities. So that can manifest itself in many ways. So it's like failing to capitalize on an emerging trend, or and getting a product out in the time frame that you want, or having the features and benefits that you want in the product. So when those missed opportunities become a reoccurrent theme, that's when I think there's a sign that it's time to transition from this ad hoc reactive approach to developing new products to something that's a little bit more systemic and strategic.
Mhm.
I think another tipping point is really wasted money on inefficient practices, and that's kind of I look at that as like, we have a lot of the puzzle pieces, but maybe not all of the puzzle pieces kind of come together, and then something goes wrong, um, and then that costs us like a lot of money. Right. And so, as a company, all those things matter. And so some of these unnecessary expenses that I've come across here, include like expedited shipping costs,
Mm.
because we had poor planning, or money's being spent, without delivering the expected value. Some examples of that, of putting out some promotions that were maybe too large, and we didn't earn as much money from some of those promotions. And so that's where it really underscores the importance of implementing some of those better processes for the activities. Lastly, one that I is really dear to my heart, because I'm usually the one who delivers the message to suppliers, is that in a startup environment, most likely you don't have a factory. You're reliant on suppliers to make your products for you. And so this continuing to ask for, hey, I need to do this project, and I need to do it, faster than you've ever done before, or, oh, surprise, I need to add like 5 times the amount of quantity. that I had already told you to do, or or constant changes, and that really disrupts our ability to develop the right product. Because sometimes we have to settle like, well, what can we do as opposed to the desired features and benefits. And so that's where I think if you see too many of those, that tells a company that you need better coordination and communication and collaboration with your suppliers and better processes for managing that pipeline.
What do you recommend about how people get started with innovation pipeline management? Are there steps that you'd suggest that they follow?
Uh, yeah, so I've thought about how we got started at Bark, and I think I had a partner in all of this, and we're clear on the end game. So where do we want to be with, let's say, a stage gate process, and where we want to be with the pipeline, and then the approach that we've been taking is baby steps.
Mm.
Sounds kind of funny, but it's baby steps to kind of bring everybody along on the journey. And so the first one is, I've mentioned before, is creating visibility to all the projects, right? And just like let everybody know, like, here's the master list. There's no secret list. This is the whole list. So that way everybody has full visibility to all the projects and everybody understands the scope. And oftentimes when you do that, there's projects on there and you're like, why are we doing these? So very clearly, people want to stop some things that don't make sense. What I always think about is like look for a pull rather than a push and kind of wait for it. Oh, we should stop those. And then, okay, well, good. Let's stop some of the projects. So you kind of move along with that. And then we're like, okay, well, how do we start new projects? And that's where we introduced an approval process. So we have structured approach, a structured template for all of our projects that define, the clear criteria for the project. What are the goals? How much do we want to sell? What resources are needed? And then we have a cross-functional group that, approves the project for the work. And then we established a monthly gate meeting where we review the projects, new projects and current projects. And so we review the projects in a consistent format. So that way it's clear the progress we're making. And what we've done along the way is that, we've iterated and improved the process. Initially we were only looking at what new projects should we start, and then not really looking at, okay, well, what happens between when we start them and we issue a PO. And so we've kind of built some of those steps in, and now we've improved our templates, we've improved how we communicate with our suppliers about the project. And then once you kind of get that going, then kind of transition to a portfolio view of, okay, here's all of the projects, here's how much revenue we believe we're going to get from these projects, and just start to look at the big picture.
Mhm.
But it's always just the push and the pull of what everybody's ready for, because you don't want to push too hard.
Yeah, it's always a journey that companies are
Yes.
going on, and you can't overwhelm people with too much too quickly. Yeah, so just taking it step by step, I think that's very useful counsel. All right, so I'll just close by thanking you, Laura, so much for the insights you've shared and the experience and the wisdom. I'm sure those that are listening to this will find a great deal of value from it. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm grateful to be able to share my experiences with you.